The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
This is Haymaker Combat Sports. Here, coming straight from the source. Only with the real, they ain't here to dress it up. Sweet science, MMA, you can get it all from us. Trust, 5 stars cause it's live. And through the fight game, we can guide ya. Slick talking, putting them in caution. Passing all the goals cause the audio is awesome. What you waiting for? Spread the word, tell a friend. This the podcast where all of the discussion ends. When they start going strike for strike, this the show that'll tell you what you seen in the fight. They ain't playing on the mic, this a welcome to the show. Warm it up for the squad, Haymaker of the bros. I'm a bow wow, you can hear from the pros. It's Haymaker Combat Sports on the road.
Welcome back to Haymaker Combat Sports, powered by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. I'm your host, EJ Reed, joined by my fellow hosts, Aaron Admire, Steve Johnson, Chris Sanders. What's good, fellas?
Happy Monday.
What's good, y'all?
Happy Monday. Happy Monday.
Yeah, we are live for the first time in a minute, but, happy to be back live, especially after this past weekend of fights. Some surprising results, but before we get into that, we usually save the news stories for the preview shows, but some breaking news broke after the show. I know everybody saw this. UFC, Dana White teaming up with Riyad Season and Turkey Al-Sheikh to form a boxing league. And I don't know, not a whole lot of facts have came out about how this is going to be set up. I know TKO is going to be involved with it and whatnot, and I don't know how they're going to split the profits up as far as, who gets a cut of what and how this is actually going to be set up. But I'll go down the line. Admire, what were your thoughts when you first saw this news?
It sounds cool initially, but I just want more details on it just to kind of learn what the ins and outs of it are going to be. What's going to set it apart? What makes it different? I mean, there's already tons of boxing leagues, but I mean, they're already going to be a step ahead, with Dana White being the leader of it, being the poster boy, the speaker of it. So I guess more to come. I mean, not a lot of info out there yet.
Steve?
Well, I think this is I don't think it's a make or break situation. If he can make some sort of audience from slap fighting, which is he's got a league of that, I think people would like to see some boxing from another angle as far as a promotion. I think it'll do well, and I think in previous podcasts we even talked about it. How would he organize it? And I think he even said the way boxers are looked at today, undefeated, you lose once, twice, you're down the ladder. And I think Dana said that won't be the factor. The best fighters will fight, and who's hot right then and there will fight. And it won't take away. So the promotion, building up a fighter and then one loss, throw him to the trash, or 2 losses, the way UFC is ran actually. And I think if he does that, I think he might find success and might even curve a new angle how other promoters, if there's more eyes on it, how boxing may be changed.
Chris?
I love it. I think it's a great way to open up boxing in a different light. Like we always see, it's all about who got the most wins, who didn't lose. Dana brings in that the best fighters fight, so there's no hiding. I think it's a good opportunity for other boxers that we don't know about. There's so many boxing gyms out there. I've been to so many different gyms across the whole states, the whole US, as a matter of fact, and just seeing guys that you don't hear about, knowing that this guy's 32-0, you don't even know his name. I think this is an opportunity for those type of fighters to join this league and get their name out there and fight because, like I tried to tell you guys before, someone that's 27-0, but that's not known, he's not going to get a big fight because he's more of a liability to someone that is known. They're not going to take a risk on him because he's pretty good, you know. So this might be the opportunity that these other fighters need to get into a fight like this. And we're going to get the fighters that fight, you know. We're not going to worry about who's holding the belt. We're going to get the fights that need to be made. So hopefully it goes out to be a good league, and it could change up how boxing's seen, right? Maybe we're going to start getting big fights in other league, you know, the pressure beyond other boxers and other promotions to get it right. So we'll see.
So on paper, this sounds fine and dandy, but as we know, you know, boxing is almost ran like the mob, and you think guys like Al Heyman and Bob Arum are going to just let Dana White come on in and do whatever he wants and restructure the whole sport? Because, you know, it's a lot of hands in the cookie jar, so to speak, as far as money, and it seems like people wouldn't take that lightly, him, you know, coming in the sport and trying to, you know, monopolize it almost. What do you think about that, Amar?
Well, I think if anybody can break into it and get away with it, I think it is Dana White, because he was already kind of in the circle. He was kind of the guy that was doing it, but not taking out of their pocket. So now he kind of was already in. They're not going to like it, but there's nothing they can do about it. And I think when they announced this, Dana White already kind of admitted it's going to be a couple years before they start getting the big names. All the big names are already signed under contract with all the other leagues that there are. I mean, there's so many different boxing leagues as it is, and everybody's already tied up, and they're going to have to slowly ease into it. Because if you think about it, kind of like what the PFL did, the PFL didn't take a bunch of good fighters. They put all their eggs in one basket with Ngannou, and so you got this one great guy in this league of, I'll say, a lot of no names. You can't do that with the boxing. You can't sign one great boxer to their new league and then have a bunch of nobodies. They need to slowly build it up and do it right. And I think that's what Dana White will do.
Steve?
As far as like, do you think this could be successful?
No, like as far as so you got the sanctioning bodies, like the organizations like the WBO, WBA, WBC, IBF, but then you even got the different promotions like Top Rank and Golden Boy and all of that. You think those guys are going to actually let Dana White come into with this league and just let him do what he wants? Those guys aren't going to just keel over to the side and just die because they're still trying to make money.
Well, I'm pretty sure they'll gatekeep the fighters they have the most as possible. Well, I agree with Admire. There's only so much you can do. I mean, they can't stop them from building a whole promotion, and so they can only do so much. And like I said, maybe over a year or two, they'll build enough fighters. You know, I would think they would have to take a PFL angle, except just keep on building like Ngannou. I'm pretty sure, you know, Conor McGregor's procrastinating because it's death row in MMA right now with whichever weight class. So if Dana would let him go to his boxing promotion, you know, maybe he would have to do that, and some big names to probably just start it off and just build off 1, 2, 3 fights within those 2 years, and then you might have something. Because, you know, Conor sold a fight to Mayweather at the end of the day.
Curve?
I think if anybody can do it, it's him. He's already showed us that he can break in and shake up some things. I think with this league that he builds, again, I think it brings the fighters that we don't know. I think he can make superstars. I think it might take a couple of years, but he can turn someone into a superstar that we don't know. And then, you know, the new upcoming Olympians or the new, you know, Golden champions, Golden Glove champions out there, the top fighters in the country, you know, they can all sign. And this top fighters around the world, you know, boxing is so big and so global, just like MMA is. There's fighters everywhere, you know, there's fighters all over. He can make anybody a superstar. So I'm not really worrying about the superstar factor. If you get a guy in there that's knocking people out or just beating people constantly back to back or just giving out good fights, That's what the people want to see. So I don't think his league is really, there's not shy of fighters. We don't have the big names, but the big names all being gatekeep, right? That's what we're all talking about. They're not fighting each other. They're not fighting each other. So I don't think it'll be hard for him to make a superstar out of somebody.
Yeah, all y'all make good points, but also, even if he's able to, get all of these fighters from all of these different promoters and, get them into this boxing league, what about the actual sanctioning bodies? Like I said, it's 4 bodies that are considered world titles: IBF, WBC, WBO, WBA. So those been around, well, 3 of them been around since since the beginning of boxing, like 30s, 40s, 50s or whatever. I know IBF, or one of them came around in the 80s, and then it created 4, because it used to be 3, and then it came 4 like 40 years or so ago. But does Dana just create his own belt and say this is the world title, and just say those 4 sanctioned bodies don't matter anymore? Because he was saying that he wants it so there's only one champion. So how do y'all think that'll be structured?
I don't know, man. Like, it's anybody's guess. It's going to be interesting how they structure it. They have to do something different to make it stand out, but you don't want to stray from what makes boxing special. So you don't want to alienate the boxing fans that you can bring over, but you have to do something a little bit different, but just enough of the same. You want to do something that brings both the MMA and boxing fans together. So, I mean, you got to come up with something unique.
But like, you have bigwig CEOs that run these organizations, and they just go out of business. Like, I don't understand how you make that work. As far as he says he wants to have one belt.
That's stretching. That's going to take a little while. I don't think one belt is just overnight. But again, if he develop his league where all eyes on him, you never know. The market could change. If he builds it the way he wants to build it, and we just look at, he's making the fights that we want to see, instead of all these belts are just gatekeeping their fighters not to fight other belts. So if he has one belt and the best of the best fight, and we're seeing it the best of the best fight, and then we see some of those guys get out their contracts and go into this league, then that's what we're looking at. Because we're honestly not even looking at the belts in boxing. Like, we don't really pay attention too much to that. Like, everybody's a champion, it seems, over there. So we're not really holding up too much on the belts over there. We really want to see the fight. I think the fans right now are preaching and wanting to see the good fights be made.
And I mean, I don't know what boxing does. I don't know. It seems like they go longer between fights. I don't know about injuries. Do they strip people of belts very often? Because I know, like the UFC, if somebody gets injured, they'll strip a title, or they'll do an interim title. Does the same work in boxing?
Yeah, that does work. That's the same in boxing. That's why someone like Floyd kind of messed it up in a sense, because he didn't care about losing this belt, and that's why they made so many belts for him, to fight against other fighters. So he'll be like, I don't care, I don't want to fight this year, I'll fight once a year, instead of doing his mandatories and things of that nature. So
right. Yeah, because I was just wondering, because I think Dana White's the type of guy that wants people to fight twice a year, and I know a lot of boxers don't do that. What's Dana White's mindset going to be going into a boxing scenario where a lot of people do fight just once a year? Is he going to be in there, oh, this boxer is only fighting once a year, we can't have him, we're going to strip him of a title? I don't know. It's going to have to be just, really thought out as he goes through this.
Again, it's going to come down to how much they get paid, to me, right? If he can bring the money, the purses that boxers get, then it's either the other belts are going to give their fighters bigger purses to stay in their league. So it's going to help out boxing, but then we're going to see less fights, like you said, right? If he's competitive with the purses and then he can get the fights over there, then a fighter's going to fight 3-4 times. Again, I don't think it's the fighters that don't want to fight. I think it's just the gatekeeping of the belts, or them not trying to pay their fighters to take those risky fights.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting as well, is what Dana White's boxing promotion is paying the boxing fighters compared to what the MMA promotion is paying their fighters. That's going to be That's going to be a big debate and controversy, I can already tell.
Yeah, because
Go ahead, Chris.
boxers want to get paid. The boxers want to get paid. They're not going over there unless they're getting paid.
That's another thing I was about to bring up because we know Dana White doesn't like to really shell out the big bucks to these fighters in the UFC. So how does that work for the boxing? Because like Chris said, boxers like to get paid. Is that where the Turkey Al-Sheikh comes into play, that he's going to be, fronting up the money? I don't know. What do y'all think?
I think it has to be. I think they know they have to have somebody that's going to shell out the money to get those big paydays. I'm going to use my favorite boxer, Gervonta Davis, as an example. He just fought Roach like last week. They're estimating between $15 and $20 million for that fight. No UFC fighter makes that, on the books, maybe with their sponsorships and, under the table payments, but no UFC fighter on paper makes that. So I can't see, this boxing league coming straight out and doing that just yet in the early stages, or them signing a big boxing name for what they pay their UFC fighters to keep up with that. So they're going to have to pay big if they want big names and big entertainment.
And then,
Again,
go ahead, Chris. No, go ahead.
No, but I don't think they have to go that angle, because Tank is, Canelo, there's only like maybe 10 fighters that are getting big checks. The rest of them, they're just happy to get it. They're happy to be there type of checks, So he don't have to go that angle. I think he can develop a league, get some good fighters in there. There's so many good fighters around the world. He knows how to find fighters. We already know that. So he can develop a superstar. But again, I think when that superstar finally gets up to that level where he should be fighting Tank or should be fighting Canelo or those type of fighters, he's going to be wanting those big paydays, and that's where that league's going to have some trouble at. That's the only time I see the leagues having trouble. But to get eyes on it, I think he can find fighters. I don't think that's the problem. I think he'll be able to find it.
Yeah, but money is a big factor. Money talks.
And
yeah, he might not keep.
And I mean, in Dana White in the UFC world, it seems like he deals a lot more with the fighters one-on-one when it comes to the contracts. Yes, they all have agents, but in the boxing world, it seems like you hear about their managers and their agents a lot more. I wonder how those contract negotiations are going to go between the boxing, because it's not the same negotiations that he's used to. Like, it's just a whole new world. It's going to be interesting to see how it just all unfolds.
Again, I think finding the fighters is not going to be as hard as people think. There's only maybe two handfuls of fighters that are boxers are getting the big checks. A lot of them are dying for the next payday. So, they're taking to be, that's why boxing gets away with it with so many belts, because they get this guy like Roach, he gave a good fight, but we didn't really know about him. We didn't ever seen too much of him, So, that day was his big payday, So what I'm trying to say with Dana, he can find a lot of fighters like that. There's so many good fighters out there that are 20-0, 30-0 that we don't even know of, right? And we finally see them when they fight Canelo. We finally see them when they fight Davison. We're like, where these guys been at? So I think there's so many of those guys he could bring to the front for and get some money in their pocket. So $100,000, $300,000, $400,000 paydays are good paydays for these fighters. I think he can get that done.
300,000?
Yeah, 300, 400,000
for a boxer. I feel like that's on the low end, isn't it?
That's a lot, man. You'd be surprised how many fighters are not making that much money.
Yeah, it said Roach Jr., his fight before Davis was like 200,000, and then he only made $2 million for fighting Tank.
Yeah.
So with his pay-per-view buys, he got 10 million for fighting Tank, but his initial just purse was 2 million, which is pretty low for headlining a pay-per-view against Tank Davis.
But that's nobody on the UFC side ever sees a big payday like that. Unless you're Conor. I think Conor's base pay before the pandemic was like 2 million.
Yeah, I think so.
He gets pay-per-view points and stuff. I know that they hadn't really been disclosing the more recent payments, but I think his more recent fights were more than that. And he's like the biggest box office star ever. So how would that be structured? Because we know UFC likes not of late, we talked about on last show, but they're known for every once in a while stacking up these cards where you have like all 5 fights on the main card, or like people that could probably contend for titles. Do they even have like the infrastructure to do that on the boxing side, or just have these big cards? I don't think they do.
I don't know.
That's why I think he could. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. There's so many fighters that you guys don't know of, but they're just wait. They're not trying to go out there because, again, they could be a liability. They don't want to mess up their record because their day to fight Canelo or the Tank can come, and they make from 100,000 to 2 million in a night. You know what I'm trying to say? So what I'm trying to say is, if he gets a league going and he's paying $300,000-$200,000 to these fighters, they're gonna take it. Because a lot of these guys don't know when the next fight's coming. They don't know when the next big day coming. They might not get that call, and they're 20, they're 30. Like I said, I've been in gyms where these guys are 32 and like 1 loss, and they're just waiting for that call. They're just waiting for that call, and they might never get that call. And I know like 4 guys that never got that call. So that $200,000 fight, they would take in a heartbeat.
But off the top of your head, what caliber of fighter you think is going to take that payday?
A solid B-level fighter, a solid B-plus fighter. Again, we're not going to talk about the A. Like, what do you consider Roach was before you met him, before you even heard about him? What was he considered to you?
He's like C+ before the Tank fight.
Exactly. So there's so many fighters like that with good records that you guys don't know of, and I'm sure in the MMA world the same way. They just need an opportunity to get out there in the front, but they're holding they're not taking out any fights either because they don't want to mess up their record. And no fighters are going to take them or want to fight them as well because they're a liability, because they can pretty much beat you. So they're in that weird limbo. I'm 29 and like 1, but nobody wants to fight me. I've been in gyms like that. I can't get a fight. I can't get a fight. I can't get a fight. And all they're doing is staying ready out throughout the year. I think this league can open it up where fighters can fight each other and make some $200,000, $100,000. That's a big payday. And they'll fight 3-4 times out the year for that.
Okay, but I was saying though, okay, so in the past we've had UFC cards where like the first 2 fights on the main card were B+ fighters, 4 B+ fighters, and then the top 3 fights on the card were all A+. That's what I'm saying. Does boxing, do they have the infrastructure to pull off a card like that?
I don't know. Dana, again, is gonna have to develop these fighters to make that type of structure card. I don't think we're gonna box it. Like right now, it's already set in the stone, right? We already have Bud. We already have all those. He's gonna have to bring these fighters that we don't know and make them into superstars, so we can see a
Right.
fight like.
And you know what would work? I mean, look at The Ultimate Fighter, the TV show. If he did that with boxing, which ESPN did that years ago with The Contender, but if he did the same thing, you're gonna get national eyes on these boxers, and they're gonna build a name and bring them into it. You're going to get eyes on it that way, and you're going to bring in viewership that way. So, I mean, there's your way to start the league with a base core of a bunch of boxers, and you keep running seasons of that. You keep growing your roster for free like that. These guys that want to get on TV, that want to win a contract, and then bring in vets, bring in guys like Chris is talking about from the gym that, have these good records but can't make it anywhere else, and just bring them in. And I mean, it's easy. I mean, there's your blueprint right there.
Yeah, I think it'll be easy for him to find fighters. I don't think that's the hard part.
Well, I think I'm the only one that still watches The Ultimate Fighter, but I get what you're saying, Admire. I know his Contender Series, Dana White's Contender Series, a lot of people watch that. The one where they'll have those live fights, and they'll give a fighter a contract at the end of the show, or sometimes they don't even give any, but most of the times they give out contracts. They would do like something like that for boxing. It's seasonal. Like he does it like, I think twice a year maybe, and it lasts for like 6-7 weeks. If he did something like that, that might work on the boxing side. But I guess we have to see how it plays out. Was there like a timetable for when this is going to launch?
No, I don't think a timetable was released. And like I said earlier, they already admitted that it's going to take a few years before they start pulling big names over. So it's a build-up process right now.
Well, I'm excited to see if it actually changes the game like Dana White says it is. But we'll have to see if it shakes out like that. But back to the MMA side of things. This past weekend, we had a fight card go down in good old Las Vegas, their home base. UFC 313, and on the early prelims and the prelims, not a whole lot of star power going on. Curtis Blades was supposed to be the headline on the prelims, but he pulled out. I don't know what happened with that. Did you see anything about that, Admire?
No, and now that you said that, I didn't even notice. I just had the prelims going in the background as I was scrolling. I didn't even notice. Keep going, and I'll let you know what happened.
Yeah, so on the early prelim, we had Ozzy Diaz defeating Jordan Ribeiro dos Santos by unanimous decision. Then on the regular prelims, we had in the featherweight division, Myron Santos defeating Francis Marshall by decision. In the welterweight division, we had Carlos Leo defeating Alex Morono by TKO. Middleweight division, we had Bruno Ferreira defeating Armin Petruzian by submission. And then to top it off, we had in the flyweight division, Josh Van defeating Rai Suria by unanimous decision. And did you see anything about? I heard it was an illness. That's all I saw. As far as Curtis Blades goes.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about it.
Yeah, they just pulled them. But
schedule between Blades, it was pulled.
I think it said undisclosed
due to illness resulting in the bout being scrapped.
So you got a chance. I had it on in the background, but I had it on my multi-view, so I wasn't paying too close attention to the prelims. Where you said you were at, Mike, you had it on too.
I just had it in the background. I didn't really pay that close of attention to it. I think there was one bad judging that happened early on in the prelims, and then not a lot of other excitement. I think there was one TKO and one submission, nothing really too memorable.
I think it was the Morono fight. They were no, because that was a TKO. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about because they were Joe Rogan and Daniel Cormier were crying about it. I think it might have been the Santos fight.
The Santos and Marshall fight, I think it was.
Yeah. So maybe I go back and watch that and see if all that crying was warranted. But
they gave it to Santos, but Marshall owned that fight, man. Marshall had the better of the exchanges and stuff, and then he had 3 or 4 takedowns. It was weird, but it ended up being a split decision. But I think Francis Marshall won that pretty easily.
Yeah, it happens. That's why I said don't leave it into the hands of the judges. But moving on to this main card, and to kick this one off in the lightweight division, we had Mauricio Rufy defeating King Green. It's just KO. All three of us, me, Admire, and Steve, had Rufy winning this one. So, yeah. Early on, Rufy stunned Green with an early right hand, and shortly after that, he hit that spinning back kick, and that'll be on all the highlight reels. Probably one of the all-time greats, spinning wheel kick. Admire, what were your thoughts on this one?
It was awesome. I broke my King Bobby Green curse. Every time I bet on him, he loses. Every time I bet against him, he wins. And I finally broke the curse. I think Rufy's going to be a problem, man. That dude, his striking looks great. He's very big for lightweight. He's got a lot going on. I think he's just going to be a real big problem. That was a nasty knockout. I messaged you right when it happened. It reminded me of the Edson Barbosa, Terry Edom knockout that's on all the highlights. Like you said, this is going to be on a lot of highlights so far, probably knockout of the year contender. Yeah, it was pretty cool while it lasted.
Steve?
Oh, yeah, very good knockout. I think Green was giving him too much respect and didn't establish anything to, back him off. And as I remember, he was almost in boxing combination motion and turned with the spin kick after he was about to fake a left, and then he, caught him with it. We all know he does that shoulder roll, but that shoulder didn't cover, the top of I think towards the top of the head or the ear, top of that. Devastating wheel kick. I didn't think he would go out like that. But I think Rufy, he's part of the, what do they call it, the nerd clan. They wear the
fight
glasses
nerds.
with little, yeah, Bahalo and
Yeah.
Petrosian. That's another devastating striker. So that's probably credit to him and how he looks so smooth in the octagon against Bobby Green, because Bobby Green, he's not a well, he changed his name, King Green. He's not a novice, he's a veteran. Usually in there, no striking game. I didn't think he would get caught like that. So I think we got a special fighter on the rise.
Chris.
Yeah, I think we do have a special fighter on the rise, man. That guy, he showed up, got him out of there right and early. This is a highlight we're going to be seeing for years. This knockout was devastating. I've seen Green fight before. I was really shocked that he got hit like that. I was like, oh my God, damn, Green, what happened to you? Put him on notice. Rufy's here, so I can't wait to see more fights. I'm very excited. And again, this highlight, we're going to be seeing this probably the knockout of the year right there.
Yeah, it'll probably be shown just like it's a guy from St. Louis that did that kick during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
We just talked about not Chaos Williams.
What's his name?
He just fought in the card that we just reviewed.
I don't know why. He's knocked out Stephen Thompson, right?
Yeah, Joaquin Buckley.
Yeah,
it'll probably be shown a lot of times like that Joaquin Buckley kick. Like Admire said, the featherweight who I don't know why I'm having brain farts. But Edson Barbosa kicked as well. So, but is that it for your boy Ken Green? Because he's been losing by a lot of knockouts, Admire.
I don't think it's it for him. I mean, he is a vet of the game, man. He's 38. He's getting up there. But I mean, he doesn't get hit a lot. I mean, he got knocked out there. He got subbed by Patty Pimblett. He did get knocked out by Jalen Turner, but yeah, I mean, he does have some knockouts when you go down the list. But I don't know. I see him as being one of them guys that just gets up there in age. He's good. He's technical. He's a great defensive fighter, but he's just been getting unlucky. I don't know. I don't think he's ready to hang it up. I say give him one more and see what happens.
I think you say that because you're going to see him get fucked up some more.
No, man, I really don't. I don't want to see him get fucked up beyond repair and just like really damaged. But I mean, I know I don't like the guy, but I like his style. I like what he does. He's just in there always pushing forward. He's not afraid. He's almost got this, Floyd Mayweather boxing style that's kind of mixed with a Roy Jones Jr. He's always talking to the opponent, telling them, how to correct their stance and shit. I don't know. He's just kind of different, and I like it.
Yeah, Floyd never got hit like that. So he might want to put some more Floyd into his routine or his fight style. Because what is he? 39? He's getting up there.
He's 38. He's 38.
Pushing gatekeeper.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's already a gatekeeper.
It's almost over.
Yeah.
He's just one of those guys like a Cerrone that they want to put, like they'll put on the card for like an action fight, but that type of fighting style takes a lot of damage. And he's got 51 MMA. That's a lot. 51 MMA fights. That's a lot of fights. So, like I said, I'm sure Dana White's gonna keep him on the roster and not get rid of him. And if he did, he'd probably go right to this new GFL league. But I guess we'll see what is to come with King Green. But moving on to the next fight, the women's strawweight division, we had Amanda Lemos defeating Yasmin Lucindo by unanimous decision. Amar had Lemos, me and Steve had Lucindo. So Lemos controlled the majority of his fight in the grappling department. Lucinda showed a little bit of life in the third round when she got the takedown. I think she should have went for broke to try to get the submission or maybe even some ground and pound, but I mean, she didn't really do nothing with that takedown she got in that third round, and not that eventful of a fight, but Lemos got the job done. What were your thoughts on this one, Admire?
Yeah, on this one, I mean, Lucindo, I just feel like if she would have kept a little bit of distance, she was doing all right. But every time they got in close and tied up, Lemos just kind of swung her around, kept her against the cage, and then took her down and controlled it. I never felt like Lucindo was completely out of the fight. I felt like at any time she could have maybe turned it around, and she started to turn around a little bit in the third round, but never really completely just went for broke and just went for that big moment. So, you know, it is what it is. It wasn't the best fight, but, you know, I picked Lemos and you guys didn't, so that's cool.
Steve?
Yeah, it's not fresh on my mind, but I think they even mentioned, I think after the card that there were 0 strikes or something like that. I don't know if it's between the first 2 rounds or all the fight, but it seemed like Lucindo didn't have any strikes, or if not significant, I can't remember what they said, but it's a very low, if not any, strike count against Lemos, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Lucindo did not have any significant strikes in round 1 or 2.
Yeah, that's what it was. I think she just got neutralized. Like you said, got against the cage. Just couldn't do nothing to get ahead of Lemos. I think Lemos did her job, and she just couldn't put her will against Lemos. To me, I think she may have just had a bad night.
Chris?
Sendo really didn't show me much. She came alive in the third, I guess, a little bit, but Amanda was right there, just pretty much being a little bit more aggressive for me. Through the fight, I was going for the old lady, so I was happy that she won. So I was like, let the old lady get some in there, showing the little young lady what to do. But Lucindo really didn't show me much. I mean, I thought she could have did a little bit better. I don't know. To me, it looked like she had a little bit, I don't know, scared or a little bit respectful, I guess, to Amanda, but I don't know.
Yeah. So after that, both of them will probably get regulated back to the prelims, because I don't know. I don't think people pay to see that type of fight, but it is mixed martial arts. You never know what you're gonna get. But moving on to this next fight in the lightweight division, we had Ignacio Bahamondes defeating Jalen Turner by submission triangle choke, and Steve and I had a Turner in this one. But both guys were throwing heat in the beginning. Turner got it to the ground and controlled it for a bit, but Bahamondes threw up the triangle, and that was all she wrote. What were your thoughts on this one, Admire?
Yeah, this is that fight we were talking about in the pre-show, that the unranked guy was actually the favorite. So we were like, what's going on in this fight? But he looked good. Turner didn't look bad, but Ignacio looked real good. I mean, he came in with a couple head strikes, couple leg strikes. That's really all the action that was there, and got that submission in. Not a lot to it. It was cool.
Steve?
From what I think Ignacio, he must be a very experienced grappler, because to me, when Turner, I think he even noticed it quick and tried to somewhat pull out, but he couldn't pull out of danger. When he knew he was there, he clamped on to him pretty good and got the submission pretty quick, as far as solidified and held him there. I think that's where Turner messed up. He went to the ground with him. He should have kept it on the feet. And for starting to see, I hate to see it, Turner going downhill, because he gave us, a few good fights. If I can remember, Dan Hooker fight. I think he's been taking losses lately, and if hopefully he can turn around. If not, he's going to be 15, or if not even ranked anymore. So hopefully he can turn it around. But good fight for Ignacio.
Chris?
Turner looked good. I thought he was about to win this fight, especially in the early beginning. He's pushing the fight forward. It's just the submission came. Like, got to the floor. It looked like he didn't want to be down there. He got on top of him, started throwing some punches, and then when he got in that submission, it was pretty much over at that point. But I was really shocked because, Turner was actually, pushing forward, getting some good shots. And the other guy was, caught him a few times, but look, Turner was the aggressive one, but, his grappling game didn't seem like up to par with the other guy. So that was unfortunate. I don't know about you guys, but is it rumored that Turner was talking about retiring after this fight? That was the rumor around?
I heard something about some gloves or something.
Yeah, they said he's putting his gloves down or teasing it. I don't know if he went through with it because I never did a follow-up, but on the broadcast, that's what they were saying, they were alluding to, and he hadn't turned 30 yet. He's turning 30 in May, so I was
looking at that. He was pretty young. I was like, wow, pretty early trying to give this up.
Hey, it's a rough sport. He's been in UFC since 2018.
Yeah,
through the Contender Series, and this is 4 losses out of his last 5 fights.
Yeah, I guess I see
6 losses in the UFC total. So
yeah,
I don't know. Did you see anything about that, Admire?
yeah. Just he said something about mental health and losing 4 out of his last 5, and he was already thinking about retiring before his last fight, so it was already on his mind.
You think that's a knee-jerk reaction, or?
Well, if it was already on his mind, I mean, and I think combat sports is one of those things. If you're even slightly thinking about it, then you should take the break. You got to be all the way in or not at all. Like that slight hesitation, we seen what happened to Anthony Smith a little while back. He was thinking about it, but he still decided to fight. And halfway through the fight, he just kind of mentally crumbled and, lost bad.
Yeah. You can't have one foot in the door and one foot out. You got to be all locked in MMA. So maybe he just needs to take a good year off, even though that's a long time and you might get ring rust. But sometimes you need that break to kind of reconfigure some things. So, I mean, he had all the potential in the world. I mean, he was like, a lot of people were chatting about him early on in his UFC career. So, you just have to put all the tools together. Sometimes he makes like mental mistakes. Like he let Ignacio catch him in that triangle. That seems like, when you're grappling in the gym, they prepare you for stuff to get out of stuff like that. And he seemed like he tapped pretty quick, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Yeah, those triangles are no joke, but guess we have to see what happens with Turner in his future if he sticks with that retirement. If so, then hats off to him for a pretty good career. It's hard to make it to the UFC. But let's move on to the co-main event in this one fella's lightweight division. We had Justin Gaethje defeating Rafael Fiziev in a rematch. Admire Steer and I had Gaethje in this one. So Fiziev got a few takedowns in that first round, but didn't do a lot of control, and it was pretty even on the feet in that first round. Round 2, it was a good back and forth with about a minute left. Justin Gaethje did that left hand collar tie and then blasted him with that uppercut. So I think that won him the round. And then early in round 3, Fiziev was ripping those kicks to the body to Gaethje, but later on in the round, Gaethje was winning those exchanges in the clinch and got a few high kicks and was able to squeak out that round, and he was able to squeak out the decision as well. Amar, what were your thoughts on this one?
This was a fun fight, man. They were banging. I never felt like either one of them was out of the fight. It felt like it could end at any time through the whole 3 rounds. Like, I think there were both times where they were both rocked, could have been out of it. Fiziev, I mean, Jude was in it. Like, he was just giving his all. Like, he wanted to take Gaethje's head off. And I mean, Gaethje throws everything like he's just trying to end your career. there's great strikers, we've seen throughout history that have to be hard to train for. Gaethje isn't a pretty striker, but it's awkward. Like there was a couple times where he like jumped and threw like a Power Rangers like down punch. I'm like, how do you even train for something like that? But some of them uppercuts he was throwing were kind of awkward. They weren't like a traditional uppercut. They were going farther around where they were almost coming from the other side. Like it was just crazy. So, I mean, it was a good fight. That was the second time they fought. Gaethje has won both of them. I could watch that fight several times again. It was cool. And they asked Gaethje, what's next? And he kind of alluded to he would like a title shot, of course. He doesn't want to fight Dustin Poirier again. They're 1-1. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen to him, but he puts on great fights. Always entertaining.
Back to that in a second. What are your thoughts on this one, Steve?
It was a very good fight. You kind of wonder if Aziz had a full camp, what it would be.
Mm-hmm.
He showed a lot of growth since the first fight. I think he's the first one who's actually successfully, of course, he got hit with it a few times as far as kicks, but successfully countered his lower kicks, as far as leg kicks. Gaethje had to think, about throwing those. He would catch him and get him, to the ground. Forever, how long it was, he was able to do that a few times. Like you said, I think he even sustained. I can't remember because I looked away, but from what I remember, it looked like a part of his skin off his toe was off in the middle of round 1 or 2. They were showing it. I don't know if y'all saw that.
I saw that, but I think I chose to ignore it because I don't like seeing nasty stuff like that.
Yeah, I looked away. I was like, it looked pretty bad, but for him to fight through that, blasting those kicks when he needed to, he got caught. But I think Fiziev did a good job, but Gaethje was able to pull through like we were guessing because he didn't have a full camp. But other than that, it was an amazing fight, and I don't know if that earned any rewards. Fight of the night. So that was that, and I would have to agree with that.
Chris?
Fight of the night, man. Those guys put on a show right there. This was a straight street fight. They were going after each other. They're throwing blows, grabbing them, slamming each other. It was just action-packed. My girl was into it. I was into it. The place I was at was into this fight. It was just an amazing fight. I believe Gaethje, there's rumors around that, I saw something like a day or two after that his hand might have been broken or he might have injured his hand during the fight. But they were going at it at each other. This was a good fight. I loved it.
So, am I used to saying earlier that the Poirier fight is probably not going to happen and Gaethje might be trying to vouch for a title fight? I don't know, man. He's got his opportunities. The only thing that may be saving him is he hadn't fought Makhachev yet. So you think they might move him into, what was he, ranked number 3 going into the, excuse me. Was he ranked
he's ranked number 3, and he ain't going to move up off that because Fiziev was ranked number 11. But, I mean, eventually Makhachev, he's fought a lot of the top people. You're going to have to get new blood in there anyway. Justin Gaethje's going to make it exciting for a little bit. At least, the fight starts standing up. He's going to throw some wild shit in the beginning to try to hit Makhachev. I just don't know, what happens from there. But I'd like to see it, give him his shot, whatever. But other than that, I mean, he's fought everybody up there at the top, or just book the fight that was supposed to happen. He was supposed to fight Dan Hooker. Book that fight. I want to see that.
You could rebook that fight. I always, because Makhachev is Khabib's protege. Like, I always forget that Gaethje didn't fight Makhachev yet because Gaethje was Khabib's last fight, but that was a title fight. He also fought Oliveira. Gaethje fought Oliveira for the vacant lightweight title. Then for him to just get a third title fight, but he just might be at the right place at the right time. Like you said, if they don't rebook that Hooker fight. So I'm interested to see what happens with that. And like Steve was saying earlier, Fiziev took that on short notice. So how could you put him up higher in the rankings, am I, after that?
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I think what makes the most sense is run the Hooker fight.
Yeah, if his hand is broken, like Chris said earlier, he probably won't be able to fight till the end of the year almost. So time is of the essence for him. He's my age, so he's 36. So the clock is ticking. So we'll see what happens with that. But let's move on to the main event of the night, fellas. For the undisputed light heavyweight championship, we had Magomed Ankalaev dethroning Alex Pereira by unanimous decision, not without a little controversy though. So, round one, Alex got the leg kicks early, but Ankalaev was able to settle down and throw some kicks of his own, got some punches in. So a lot of people were saying that was clearly Alex's round. Maybe I got to go back and watch it because I thought it was pretty close. Round two, more calf kicks from Pereira, but I thought Ankalaev got the better of him with the boxing and going up top, and then Ankalaev rocked him with that punch with 10 seconds left, so he clearly won that round. I gave round three to Pereira because of the leg kicks, but Ankalaev was moving forward a lot of that fight, so you never know what the judges are seeing. And round four, I thought Ankalaev did a good job of neutralizing Pereira's striking by making it an ugly fight by grappling in the clinch. I think the ref went in there and prematurely broke it up at one point because you got to try to let the guys work, but Ankalaev still found his way back into the clinch. And round five, I think Alex got the better of him in the striking, but it wasn't like a clean round either. But, I think Alex was clearly the busier fighter. And two judges gave Ankalaev the middle three rounds, and then one judge only gave Pereira the first round and gave Ankalaev the last four. I got to go back and watch that first round, but based off of that, I came up with the same as the judges, Ankalaev, because I think I gave round one to Ankalaev, but nobody gave him that round, so maybe I'm tripping. So I got to go back and watch the fight, but a lot of people were saying this was a controversial decision. What were your thoughts on this one, Amir?
Yeah, I gave rounds 1 and 5 to Alex, 2, 3, and 4 to Ankalaev. The fight went not exactly how I thought it would. I thought there would be more takedown, more wrestling, but Ankalaev did good with it. He used the threat of the takedown very well, but used his, boxing very well. He kept the pressure on Alex. He kept Alex backing up. He kept Alex on the run. He did a great job. And I think it's very important to point out that they kept this during Ramadan. Ankalaev was fasting through this whole thing. During Ramadan, they fast from sun up to sundown. So he was going through that as well. So he was kind of at a disadvantage for hydration and stuff like that. But he still pulled off the win. It was a great win. And after you go through everybody, I want to circle back because I want to talk about something that the internet is clamoring about after this fight.
Well, you did choose Ankalaev to win this fight. Me and Steve had Pereira. So I don't know. You just had a feeling in your bones because every time I thought Pereira might slip up, he's been able to win until he got to the Ankalaev fight. But I did say Ankalaev got the best chance of throwing him just because of the grappling, but he didn't do much. He grappled, but he didn't get to wrestle him because Pereira defended the takedown. So I don't know if you saw the pre-fight that we didn't know. That's why you went off in the limb and chose Ankalaev, Amir.
I know that his striking was real good, and circle back to me after you get to everybody, and I'll kind of go down this rabbit hole.
Steve?
Yeah, definitely. Ankalaev did a great job. He went with takedowns, which were all defended, but used the grappling against the octagon against his advantage. From what I recall, I think it was from that ESPN channel. They posted Pierre may have zero octagon control, and I could say that because he was on the back, running back, looking for the counter most, and Ankalaev was, pushing forward and countering himself when struck upon. I think Ankalaev did a good job at establishing, which most fighters can't, a good establishment in your striking, which certain people, and I think the most intimidating, to intimidate Pierre, to actually respect him. And I think that's also what worked out for him well, let alone the trying to defend the takedown. And I think those two equations, you put those together, then you just have looks like the perfect equation to defeat Pierre. I think Ankalaev did a good job. I don't see too much controversy because, like Admire said, we saw him on the back foot most of the fight and against the cage. So those are my thoughts on it.
Chris?
The last fight we talked about was a street fight. This was a bar fight. It was real close, like when it was coming at each other. But Pierre, to me, was just off his back foot. It wasn't aggressive enough. So I wasn't mad at the decision. I felt like he should have just be a little bit aggressive here and there, but he didn't pick his right spots to me. Kept fighting off his back foot, which was fine, but it just seemed like he was more trying to get distance away than bring the fight to the fight. So that's why I wasn't mad at the decision.
So circling back to you, Admire, you had a conspiracy theory or
no, not really conspiracy. Well, it could be a conspiracy, but this is a lot of something that came up on the TikTok and the internet. I kind of agree with it, but I want to see if you guys agree with it. And it kind of has something to do with why I made my decision to go with Ankalaev. So the theory is Alex Pereira has fought 7 times in less than 2 years. So we have seen a lot of him, and he's won all those fights except for this one. So we've seen him win a lot. He's fought Jiri twice. He's knocked out Jamal Hill, TKO on Roundtree. He's, beat Jan Blachowicz, and he got knocked out by Izzy. So we've seen a lot of Alex lately. But if you think about it, how many of those are great strikers? We haven't really seen Alex against a great striker. Jiri's kind of an awkward striker, but he's not a great striker. Jamal Hill's a decent striker, but he's not a great striker. Izzy, I will say, yes, Izzy is a great striker. Alex doesn't fight that great when you're putting the pressure on him. When you're coming at him, it seems like he doesn't fight that good. So he's beat all these people when he was pushing forward. If you look at the Roundtree fight, Leo Roundtree did better than most fighters against him when he was pushing forward. We all said, wow, man, look what Roundtree did those first couple rounds. But then he started getting touched up, and that's when he started backing up, and that's when he lost the fight. So a lot of people are saying Alex kind of had the easy route to the championship and has kind of had it easy. He hasn't had anybody that's a real great striker to kind of counteract his striking, and that's what Ankalaev did. Ankalaev is a great boxer and keeps that pressure on. What do you think?
What do y'all guys think?
I would have to agree 100%. That's what I said. He kept backing up, and like we say, I think Pierre has so much devastating power that Ankalaev was able to establish and pop him. And I don't think Pierre, because Izzy, he has of course he knocked him out, but Izzy's not known for his one strike knockout power. Izzy had to work for it or really catch him off guard. Ankalaev, I think, is a little bit bigger build. Can pop harder, like you say, he knows how to box. And I think that was the factor that Pierre wasn't the only fighter in the octagon that you had to worry about certain things like your lead left and which I think Uncle Live maybe got hit and took and avoided that through the fight very well. So I think that's exactly what it is. We don't usually see Pierre comfortable and stalking and getting closer like he did Jamal Hill. You know, what he did to Jamal Hill and then stepped on his foot before he threw that left. He couldn't do that with Uncle Live because he was always moving. And, you know, Pierre's always setting traps to where Uncle Live was on his game plan. And I think that's why he won.
Anything to add on to that, Chris?
No, I agree with the guys. I just don't like him fighting on his back foot. It just seemed like he was in survival mode or just trying to get away from damage. He wasn't bringing a fight. Like, you could fight off the back foot, but it didn't seem like he was fighting off the back foot. He was just trying to just get away, it seemed like. So it didn't look good to me. So that's why I'm not mad at the decision at all. But I agree. Like, he don't look good fighting on his back foot at all. He needs to be aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, you may have a point because looking back at it, with like elite strikers, he's faced some like unconventional strikers as far as like Roundtree. Roundtree's got a lot of power, but he was like ranked number 8 or 9 or 10 when he fought Pierre. He was like a last minute stand-in. I can't remember who he replaced. May have been Uncle Live was supposed to fight that fight, but Hill, you know, he's got some striking, but you don't think of him as like an elite striker. And same with Prohaska, even though he does some crazy angles and crazy kicks. So man, maybe he just didn't run into an elite striker, and that kind of hyped him up. And like Blachowicz as well. And then Izzy was elite. That first fight, Izzy was outstriking him the whole fight until they got to round 5, and then Pierre caught Izzy slipping. And then the second fight, he got knocked out by Izzy.
Yeah, the first Izzy fight, Izzy was putting the pressure on him. That's why he was doing so good. But like you said, 5th round, you know, he caught Izzy. But then kind of the opposite happened the next fight. You know, Izzy caught him. So that's kind of the anomaly. But like I said, all the other fights, Alex was the aggressor. He was never backing up. So I think the theory's kind of true. If you put the pressure on Alex, it's kind of a different game for him. And Uncle Ives kind of cracked that code. So Alex has a lot of work to do because Dana White's pretty much said this is an instant rematch situation. I don't personally want to see that fight again right now unless somebody changes a game plan. Uncle Ives, he has that wrestling in his back pocket that he can use. If Alex starts striking him up, go straight to the ground. And that ground is always going to be a threat. So Alex is always going to be weary of that. So what can Alex do differently? He's going to have to do something completely different and change up his game plan for a rematch.
I think immediate rematches when you don't defend the belt at least 5 times is bullshit. I know Dana White, because we'll get into. I think this result was a disaster for the UFC, but he only defended it 3 times, even though he had some highlight reels in there. I mean, we got to stop with these immediate rematches. But like you said, it sounds like Dana White is vouching for that. But like, look his kickboxing background with Pierre. He's an elite striker. So why does when somebody puts the pressure on it, why does that bother him so much, Steve?
Well, I think, why it affects him is he's not used to being in that position, especially in the MMA. He's used to being the stalker and not, you know, worried about somebody striking him, which I think that's why he's on his back foot. Maybe he was trying to rely on the counter game too much. But then again, you know, you have to know when you're falling behind in rounds. And I don't think he could do anything about it. You know, Uncle Live was sharp. And as soon as I feel like Uncle Live's patterns were getting caught on as far as the striking, he would mix that grappling in and get that octagon control.
I don't know. Maybe like you said, it's different when it's like an MMA fighter putting pressure on them, making it ugly, and you got to worry about the takedown as well. Yeah, and we still hadn't really seen him tested on the ground like that. So imagine if, because I don't know, maybe Uncle Iev was being cautious to really go for the takedown, and he wanted to preserve energy because I think he stuffed like 9 of the takedown attempts. I mean, which is crazy.
He stuffed a lot of them. I mean, Alex is good with the takedown defense, but I don't know how hard Uncle Iev really tried. And I mean, I think Uncle Iev seen that he was having success on the feet. So, you know, what bigger confidence is that than I'm beating Pierre at his own game? I'm doing good at his own game, so I'm going to keep doing this. Like, I don't know. It worked.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, this was probably UFC's biggest nightmare as far as results go. You're saying that Dana White wants to run it back, but what if the same result happens? You're taking more luster off of Pereira, because that's why I hate when people count the chickens before their hats, because people were talking about him going up to heavyweight and facing John Jones. If Uncle Ive didn't get the takedown, but damn sure John Jones would get a takedown on him. Because he took down the Olympic wrestler and Daniel Cormier with ease. So, see, that's why I don't like how they rush and try to make these super fights happen. And I think John Jones was kind of clamoring, because before the fight, I was watching one of those UFC pre-shows, and they were talking about it might be John Jones instead of Tom Aspinall, which I think is absurd. They're saying Jones and Pierre instead of Aspinall and Jones. I think that's absurd. You can't skip Aspinall at this point, but that's dead in the water now. So I don't know. I don't know what they do, Pierre. They don't run their immediate rematch. I don't know if you had anything in your mind.
I mean, I know they're going to do the immediate rematch, but I mean, there's a cool fight down there at middleweight still. We know Alex could make middleweight, go down and fight DDP. That's a cool fight. They've been talking about fighting each other.
DDP. Yeah. People were saying how much of a big light heavyweight he is, but he was able to make middleweight back in the day. But I don't think DDP has anything on the books. But I mean, that's kind of unfair. He could just keep floating between these weight classes and get title shots, because talk about him going up to heavyweight and getting a title shot. Isn't that like a cheat code almost?
Yeah, but I mean, he's fought 7 times in 2 years. The UFC kind of owes him. I mean, that's what happens when you're a company, man.
Yeah. I mean, but then,
but what else do you do if he wants to stay at light heavyweight? He's already fought everybody in the top 4, 5. I don't think that he's the type that's going to want to run it back with Jerry a 3rd time, in the last 2 years.
Yeah, he might be stuck between a rock and a hard place. It'd be perfect if there was a cruiserweight division at 225, but we know UFC doesn't have that division. So, yeah, his best bet might be going back down to middleweight.
And I know the UFC's butthurt. They ain't even updated their champions in the rankings.
They usually do that like right away too. Yeah, they were mad at those results, but it is what it is. That's what the sport is, and we were talking about it earlier. Sometimes they don't know how to market these foreign fighters, especially like the Russian fighters, which Uncle Io is. I mean, with promos, he needs the translator, and he's not making highlight reels with Pierre. That's how Pierre was able to kind of get over that hump, just because he was such a violent fighter. So I don't know. You see UFC being able to market Uncle Iev, Admire?
I mean, it's hard, man. It's really hard when you got to have that interpreter and that language barrier. It's really hard, but the UFC is going to have to figure out something to start promoting those guys, because you got Makachev up there. Now you've got, Ankalaev up there. You got, Chimaev that's probably going to be up there someday soon. You got, Shavkat that's working his way up. You got a lot of these guys that, speak a different language. They're going to have to figure out a way to market these guys. You can't just stop marketing your champions because they don't speak English. You have to adapt.
What do you think, Steve?
I would definitely say that. I mean, saying that, Pierre, he always had to have a translator. You know, I don't think he spoke saying that.
Yeah, he didn't, but I was saying earlier, like his fight style kind of overcame
made
that.
up for it.
Yeah,
Definitely. And then, you know, the ratio of, you know, you might not necessarily be a Brazilian, but the ratio of how many people know Portuguese on the Western end versus Russian on the Western end, that may make a difference as far as marketing. Like you said, Pierre made up for his fighting style, but I'm pretty sure more people guessing know Portuguese over here since, Brazil, more than people know Russian over here. So that may be a sell point problem. I don't think so. I think it maybe so, he's going to have to get a wins like Q Talaba when he knocked him out. That's when I first started noticing him. Not only the controversy they first had, they had to rematch it, but Uncle Live ended up knocking him out. I'm like, okay, he's a fighter, but I don't think we've seen a fight like that. They're drawn out decisions, or I can't even think of a finish even in between there. Yeah, I think it might be a problem. I can see why Dana's probably upset based off a selling point, but I think all he has to do is keep on winning. I think he'll pick up on more fans. He's just going to have to do more exciting wins. To me, this fight wasn't that bad as far as boring, because we got to see him striking with Pierre and actually, but if he has any more of this, I'm pretty sure people will start getting bored of him. So more exciting fights that can't be laying and praying or grappling and praying. Just like everybody wants. We want finishes.
Chris, what do you think about his marketability?
He gotta have to start finishing people if there's a language barrier. Again, if you have, like Steve was saying, if you have more fights like this, not saying it was boring, but it wasn't. We had the fight before was very exciting though. Like I said, the plates was jam packed. People were turning. There was more conversations during this fight. It's a little louder in the spot than it was during the fight previous. So it wasn't super exciting. But if he keeps fights like this without submissions or knockouts, then it's going to be really hard to market it. I don't know. Are Russian fighters easy to market anyway? Like, they're not very exciting.
I mean,
they're not talking shit. They're really like humble. They're really like right to the point. Let's get this done and let's fight. So they're really hard, in my eyes, they're really hard to market anyway, but he just needs to knock out people.
I mean, you got a point. Even in the boxing side of things, they weren't Russian, but they were Ukrainian. The Klitschko brothers pretty much killed the heavyweight division. It was dead when they were on top.
Mm-hmm.
It took Wilder and them boys to bring it back. Fury and Wilder and them boys to bring it back. So I don't know. Like you said, maybe it's like almost like a cultural thing. Like, it's not they really, style just to be shit talkers and promote their fights in that way. They just kind of let their fighting talk for themselves. But in the MMA world, a lot of the Russians are grapplers, and that style doesn't really translate in like the just bleed bros that want to just see somebody get knocked out and be like a casual fan that goes and watch the fights at the bar when a big pay-per-view comes up. So I don't know. UFC needs to do something. Like Amar said, they got to find some way to market them. They can't just sit back and just, I know they make a lot of money, but they got to find a way. Like we were talking about on the last show, they got a problem with like building these superstars, because like I said in one of the previous shows, sometimes they just caught lightning in a bottle with some of it, like a Conor McGregor or Ronda Rousey. They didn't necessarily, push these people to the moon. They got over on their own. But we'll see what happens with Uncle Liev as far as them marketing him, if he can hold on to the title for a long time. But we're getting close to the end of the show. Next pay-per-view is a month from now. It's on the 12th. And I hadn't even looked at the boxing schedule. I don't know if be able to get a show in between then. But there is a fight night in London, and it's kind of solid for a fight night card. We know some of the shittier cards they put on the Apex, but this one is in the O2 Arena. I don't know if you saw this one, Admire. Leon Edwards and Sean Brady headlining this one on the 22nd. You got, like you guy we talked about earlier, Jan Blachowicz. He's being Oberg. Kevin Holland's on that one. Molly McCann. So, I mean, that's CLD's on there too. Chris Duncan. So, I mean, that's a solid fight night card. If schedules line up, might recap that one, but we'll see. Be on the lookout on social media to get updates on that. But that'll bring us to the end of the show. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, and make sure to follow us on IG, on X, Twitter, and also on TikTok. I got to get back on the TikToks though, but I'll do it for us at Haymaker Combat Sports. Until next time, be safe out there. Later.
Hit the takedown, ground and pound, that was from the top. Heel hooking, no more plot, I leave you in the knot. Pound for pound, been the greatest, sitting on the top. And I'm laughing at the fools who think they coming for the spot. You ain't got a shot.